There is a quiet tragedy unfolding in the shadows of our connected world, where millions of minds surrender their deepest gift, the ability to think for themselves. Picture this moment. You're scrolling through your feed, and suddenly, everyone seems to believe the same thing. Share the same outrage, repeat the same phrases like a collective prayer to invisible gods. You feel it too, don't you? That subtle pressure to conform, to blend into the chorus of voices that echo through digital hallways, drowning out the whisper of your own inner knowing. Carl Jung once warned us about this very phenomenon, calling it the dissolution of individual consciousness into what he termed the collective unconscious, not in its healing form, rather in its most destructive manifestation. We are witnessing the rise of collective stupidity, where the intelligence of crowds transforms into the ignorance of mobs, and individual thinking becomes a rebellious act. But why does this happen? Why do we, as conscious beings capable of extraordinary insight and creativity, so willingly surrender our mental sovereignty to the crowd? The answer lies deeper than you might imagine, woven into the very fabric of our psychological makeup, our ancient survival mechanisms, and our modern digital addictions. Jung understood that within each of us lies both the capacity for profound individual wisdom and the magnetic pull toward collective belonging. He saw how easily the individual psyche could be absorbed into what he called the participation mystique, a state where personal identity dissolves into group identity. When we lose ourselves in the collective, we don't just lose our ability to think clearly, we lose our souls. Consider the last time you held an unpopular opinion, one that made you feel isolated, misunderstood, perhaps even afraid to speak your truth. In that moment, you stood at the crossroads between individual authenticity and collective acceptance. Between the courage to think for yourself and the comfort of thinking like everyone else, most of us choose comfort. We choose the warm embrace of groupthink over the cold isolation of independent thought. But here's what Jung knew that we've forgotten. True intelligence isn't just about what we know. It's about how we think, how we question, how we resist the gravitational pull of mass opinion. The collective stupidity that surrounds us isn't born from ignorance alone, born from the fear of standing alone with our thoughts. We live in an age where information moves faster than wisdom, where viral ideas spread like wildfire, while deep insights burn slowly, often unnoticed. Social media algorithms feed us what we already believe, creating echo chambers that masquerade as reality, where our biases are confirmed and our blind spots remain hidden. We mistake the volume of voices for the validity of ideas, confusing popularity with truth, trends with wisdom. Jung warned that when individuals lose their capacity for independent thought, they become susceptible to what he called psychic epidemics, mass movements of irrationality that sweep through populations like invisible plagues. History has shown us the devastating consequences of such epidemics: witch hunts, political extremism, financial bubbles, and social hysteria that destroy lives and civilizations. But we tell ourselves we're different now, more evolved, more connected, more informed than our ancestors. Yet here we are, watching as collective stupidity wins battle after battle against individual thinking, as nuance dies in the harsh light of binary thinking. The modern world rewards quick reactions over thoughtful responses, emotional outbursts over measured consideration, tribal loyalty over independent analysis. We're conditioned to think in hashtags, to reduce complex realities into simple slogans, to choose sides rather than choose understanding. But individual thinking, real, authentic, courageous thinking requires something our fast-paced world has little patience for: solitude, reflection, and the willingness to sit with uncertainty. Jung spent much of his life exploring the depths of human consciousness, and he discovered that our greatest insights come not from following the crowd, but from descending into the darkness of our own psyche. He called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who we truly are, separate from the expectations and projections of others. Individuation requires us to face our shadows, to acknowledge our blind spots, to question not just what others believe, but what we ourselves believe and why. It's the most difficult path we can choose because it demands that we stand alone with our thoughts. Even when the whole world seems to be moving in the opposite direction, the collective offers us certainty, belonging, and the illusion of rightness. Individual thinking offers us uncertainty, loneliness, and the responsibility of forming our own opinions. Is it any wonder that collective stupidity is winning? But consider what we lose when we surrender our individual thinking to the crowd. We lose our creativity, our ability to see beyond the obvious, to imagine solutions that haven't been programmed into us by others. We lose our moral compass, our capacity to distinguish between what's right and what's popular, between what's true and what's trending. We lose our soul, that unique perspective that is our gift to the world, the one thing that makes us irreplaceable in the vast tapestry of human experience. Jung believed that the health of society depends not on its ability to create conformity, but on its capacity to honor and protect individual consciousness. When individuals stop thinking for themselves, societies stop evolving, stagnating in the comfortable prison of collective assumptions. But there is hope, and it begins with a simple yet revolutionary act: the decision to think for yourself. This doesn't mean rejecting all collective wisdom or becoming a contrarian for the sake of being different. It means developing what Jung called conscious awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking, to notice when you're being influenced by others, and to choose your thoughts deliberately rather than inheriting them unconsciously. Start by questioning your automatic responses, those immediate reactions that feel so natural you never think to examine them. Ask yourself, is this thought truly mine, or is it something I've absorbed from others? Is this belief based on my own experience and reflection, or is it something I've accepted because it's what everyone around me believes? Practice sitting with uncertainty instead of rushing to adopt the nearest available opinion. Learn to say "I don't know" and mean it, to resist the pressure to have an immediate position on every issue that trends across your consciousness. Cultivate solitude, not loneliness, but the profound peace that comes from spending time alone with your own thoughts, free from the constant input of others' voices. Read books that challenge your existing beliefs. Engage with ideas that make you uncomfortable. Seek out perspectives that don't fit neatly into your current worldview. Notice how your body responds to different ideas. Sometimes the truth feels uncomfortable, not because it's wrong, but because it requires us to grow beyond our current limitations. Jung taught that individuation is not a destination, but a process, a lifelong commitment to becoming more conscious, more authentic, more truly yourself. Every time you choose to think for yourself instead of automatically adopting the thoughts of others, you strike a blow against collective stupidity. Every time you pause before reacting, question before accepting, reflect before responding, you reclaim a piece of your individual consciousness. This isn't about becoming isolated or arrogant. It's about becoming more fully human, more capable of genuine connection and authentic contribution. When you think for yourself, you have something real to offer others. When you simply echo the crowd, you offer nothing but noise. The world doesn't need another voice repeating the same ideas everyone else is sharing. The world needs your voice, your unique perspective, your individual take on the human experience. But that voice can only emerge when you create space for it, when you resist the magnetic pull of collective opinion long enough to discover what you actually think and feel. Jung understood that this work is not just personal, it's cultural, even spiritual. When individuals reclaim their capacity for independent thought, they create ripples that spread outward, inspiring others to think for themselves as well. One conscious individual can awaken the consciousness of others, not through preaching or arguing, but simply by demonstrating what it looks like to think authentically. The battle between collective stupidity and individual thinking is not fought in the public square. Spot in the quiet moments of your own consciousness. It's fought every time you feel the urge to automatically agree with the crowd and choose instead to pause and consider. It's fought every time you resist the temptation to adopt, someone else's outrage as your own and choose instead to form your own response. It's fought every time you turn off the noise of others' voices long enough to hear the whisper of your own inner wisdom. This is not an easy path. Individual thinking requires courage, patience, and the willingness to be misunderstood. There will be times when you feel isolated, when your thoughts seem to place you at odds with everyone around you. But remember Jung's insight. The goal is not to be different from others for the sake of being different, but to be authentic to yourself for the sake of being whole. When you are truly thinking for yourself, you often find that you're not as alone as you initially thought. There are others out there, scattered across the landscape of human consciousness, who have also chosen the difficult path of individual thinking. These are the people who create genuine art, who solve complex problems, who offer fresh perspectives on old challenges. They are the ones who remind us that there are always alternatives to the obvious choices, that there are always new ways of seeing and being. The victory of collective stupidity is not inevitable. It only seems unstoppable because so few of us are willing to stop it. But you can stop it right now, in this moment, by making a simple commitment to yourself and to the world. Commit to honoring your own consciousness, to nurturing your own capacity for independent thought, to resisting the easy comfort of groupthink. Commit to the difficult but rewarding work of individuation, of becoming who you are meant to be rather than who others expect you to be. The world needs your individual consciousness now more than ever, needs your unique way of seeing and thinking and being. But it can only benefit from your gifts if you first reclaim them from the collective forces that would absorb and diminish them. Jung's invitation to us across the decades is clear. Wake up to your own consciousness, think for yourself, become an individual in the deepest sense of the word. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because it's popular, but because it's true. The battle between collective stupidity and individual thinking begins and ends with you. Which side will you choose? If this message touched you, if it stirred something within you that recognizes the truth of your own individual consciousness, take a moment to reflect on your own thinking patterns. Consider sharing your commitment to independent thought by commenting, "I choose to think for myself." Let this be your declaration of intellectual independence, your stand against the tide of collective stupidity that threatens to wash away the precious gift of your individual consciousness.